Where do you think your genius is? Are you like really living in the top half of you, so to speak, where you're really rocking that higher vibe and letting all of you come through and to share your brilliance with yourself and with others and adding to that hum of the world? Hi, I'm Paula D'Andrea for Rock Your Life TV, and today we're going to tap into your genius. Actually, we're going to help you unleash your genius with my featured guest, Soleira Green. So this is part of an effort to get you into tip-top vibrational shape. That means that you have as much of you available to really get out there and rock your life, to make it the best that it can possibly be. When you finish viewing, head over to pauladandrea.com/RYLTV and pick up a free gift and get on the guest list so that you stay in tune with all the people who rock that are here on Rock Your Life TV. Right now we've got Soleira Green. Soleira is a visionary genius who is here to share her insight with you to help you unleash your genius. She is the co-founder of the Visionary Network and also the director of the Happiness Company. Big warm welcome to Soleira Green to join us and unleash your genius.
Thank you. And by the way, that's the Genius Company. Dorothy's the Happiness Company.
I'm sorry.
That's
so
okay.
Sorry about that. All right. Give us a rewind and then just jump right in with us, Soleira. Give us all your contact information right from the get-go.
Soleira Green. Yeah, great. SoleiraGreen.com, thegeniuscompany.co, and thevisionarynetwork.com. You'll find loads of me all over that.
Yeah, you're just all over the place. She's got her hand in everything, and she's here to rock you out with all of that great information that she has. So, Soleira, let's just dive right in, get people into their highest vibe with unleashing their genius. Take us away.
All right. Yay! All right, let's roll. Well, first of all, I believe that every single person has amazing genius in them. You will do it like nobody else has done it before. There is inside of you this unique genius. It marries with your passion, your essence, your signature, what makes you you. So the things you do, and I believe there'll be more than one thing in you that's genius, but the things you do that really are different, and some of those things you may never have told a person in your life that you can do, and those are your geniuses. So it's time to come out of the closet, time to play in a brand new way and show your genius to the world. So the other piece of that is that that's the inner part, but there's also plugging into the streaming genius fields. And genius is all around us. It's just waiting to come through. The books like Harry Potter, you know, the poems, the songs, all of the great geniuses will all tell you that they kind of pluck it from the air. And then they marry it with that uniqueness that's inside of them, and they bring their spin on it, put their signature on it. So it's a two-part process, you could say, of making sure you've got that inner you rocking and rolling and ready to go, and that you're plugged in and you've learned how to call genius to you, and then you mix two up and where you go from there. So I thought on this call, Paula, we'd actually walk people through some of the processes for that. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds great to me, because that was actually my, you already know how this goes, because it makes sense, is that you're talking about, first of all, is that you have to ignite yourself and, rock into your highest vibe for yourself, and then so that then you can tap in and, stream it all in. So
yeah.
Take it away.
Well, step number one is what I call wild open. Now, vibrationally, because we've been talking about, being in good vibrational shape, that means like you just like, wow, you just, all of you, rocking and rolling and ready to go, exhilarating, exciting. Genius is an exciting thing. You don't get to genius in a low state. Do you know when you're really rolling stuff around in your head and you're really down? Those aren't your genius moments. You have
No, I think
genius
that's
when
a
you're in the...
really, if we could hold on for 1 second there, Soleira, I don't mean to interrupt too much, but I think that's a really important point to make. And so kind of like, here's the hammer over the head with that one, because it's kind of like when you're in those states of those low vibrations and you're trying to make something new, it's just not going to happen. Basically, you're producing, if you're in clouded thinking and you're not turned on and you don't have access to your full energy, you're not going to make the changes that you want from that state.
That's
Would you
right.
agree with that? And
Absolutely.
so it's really really important to get the awareness level that that's what's happening for you, that that's where you are, so that then you can get out of it, and then you can get out of everything and start really stepping into that higher vibe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you get in the wild open, exhilarated state. So take a deep breath. You've got to fill yourself up with breath, with life. Life is pounding through your veins all the time. You want to be excited about that. And then you want to think of something you love and let the energy of that just sparkle up through you, put a smile on your face, and it kind of like opens you wide up. So it's like those moments where you're standing on the beach and the sun is coming, sparkling on the water and the waves, the sound of the waves, or you're standing on the top of a mountain, you're looking at this beautiful view. It's all about getting yourself into that big, exhilarated, wild open state. Now, why you want to do that is because the inner you, the genius that's inside you, needs to be able to flow through. And it can't do that if you've shoulders hunched and low vibe. And, so you want to kind of let that inner you kind of soar up into the game. So that's step number one. Okay, step number two, you now want to plug in. So here's imagine that the genius fields are all around you. Genius is just floating in the air, and it's waiting for you to send out a signal and say you're looking for it. So it's like you take this wild open state and you kind of pulse out your signature. It's what makes you different. It's the passions you have. But if you just go, okay, I'm Paula, but here we go, you're broadcasting.
I didn't feel the verb on that. I didn't, was not like really kicking any bass on that one. Bring me up, Soleira.
So it's like you're standing on stage about to do your rock performance, right?
Totally. I mean, that is the vibe, that people should be thinking about, and I think that's like a really easy one for people to get a handle on. Like everybody has their favorite singer, and it doesn't even have to be in the rock genre, but it's about that. It's about grabbing the hairbrush or toothbrush or whatever, and the shower head, and really getting in and belting it out, that energy that you have when you get into that play. And I think that's also a really important part of it, is that it's a play that naturally lives inside of you, and play more often, because it's, for a lot of people, it's only once in a while, and we want it to be all the time, really enjoy who you are and start rocking it out. People want to see it.
Absolutely. Okay, so now you're standing there and you're pulsing your signal out into the genius fields, and now you want to call genius to you, the genius that's right for you in this moment, that matches with your essence, your passions, your resonance, and that's right for you to bring through. And look, when you call genius, you're not calling it into your brain. You're not thinking this. Genius is done with what I call big brain streaming flow. So you're plugging into what I call the big brain. It's the infinite streaming genius of the universe, let's say. Mm-hmm. And you've plugged yourself in, you've called the genius to you, and when it comes to you, don't try and absorb it with your brain, absorb it with every cell of you. Remember, you're in the wild open state. You could assume, let's use the analogy, you're on the rock stage, right? And you've just strummed the guitar and you've sent your signal out and the crowds are roaring back at you. So you want to breathe in the roar of the crowds, which is the flow of the genius coming towards you. And you want to let that feeling engage with you, because genius is a feeling experience. So you first want to have the feeling before you have the thoughts and the knowing. So there we are. We've called genius to us. And you breathe that feeling, that energy, that experience into you. And let yourself have the experience. Make friends with it. Embody it. Now let that experience pop up into your conscious awareness as to what it might be. And let it flow through you. So you might speak words, you might write something, you might paint something, whatever your genius is. Different people will have all kinds of different ways of expressing it. And then you let it flow. There's a kind of surrender with genius, but it's a paradox because you are surrendering into it. In other words, it's coming to you, and you partner with it, but then you bring yourself to it, and you create with it. So that's the paradox part. You surrender, and you source and create what it's about to become.
Awesome. And you know what, we touched upon that when we were speaking about the real art of transformation, and we talked about surrender, because that is a really, so just here's a little refresher, and if you need to go back, and also we spoke about, like before too, also the alivening when we spoke about rocking a higher vibe, so take a peek back at those episodes too if you need to get into these spaces. But in order to, so I just want to recap just a little bit really quickly about that surrender part, because you do have to have that surrender, first of all, into yourself and into the higher being before you can then take it into the genius level. So just buzz us through that real quick again and recap that for us, Soleira, and then take us on to the next, please.
Okay, so you want me to just run through that again? So wild open, is that what you want?
Yeah, just a real quick of well, just even if you have a quick thing, but just to even verbally speak to surrender for yourself and then get into this space, because it is important. It's here's the thing is that what you're saying is that in order to tap into the genius and then get into that mega mind that's out there, you first have to be in the position where you've already surrendered into your kind of your quantum self, kind of step out of your personality a bit and step into that. So that's what I'm.
I can just hear people thinking, "What? Step out of
yourself."
yourself."
I know exactly. So let's break it down and kind of make it really, really easy. But just through that, because surrender is a big word, and it kind of goes along. I think the context we used it before was kind of drag or let go, kind of a deal,
Yeah. Well, first of all, everyone is an awesome, amazing being. Everybody is. There isn't anybody who isn't, no matter what they think of themselves. They really are. And there is our greater being, or our truly knowing, awesome self. We do know on those levels what we're up to, what we're here for, what we're meant to do. So a part of us knows, and part of getting conscious is a kind of surrendering into the knowing of yourself, and surrendering into that you may not in the conscious parts of yourself yet know all of you. So the surrender, there's a bit of trusting yourself, trusting the universe, however you want to say it, trusting the infinite streams of genius coming to you, trusting that it will be there for you when you call. The only reason it wouldn't be is if you're out of the game.
Yeah, and you're resisting it.
Yeah, Now, I have to say, there are moments in time where I'm wanting genius and it won't come to me. Doesn't mean I'm out of the game, but I may be in the wrong moment in time. So
Okay.
I have to make sure I'm aligned to what wants to happen through me, that there's a rightness of feel to that and a rightness of timing to that as well. But generally now I can pretty much sit down anytime and go, okay, come, bang, and it'll just
Right.
pop right through
And thanks
me.
for saying that too, because I think that's what it is. It's kind of like there's a little bit of resistance, and then there's people trying to force a situation.
Yeah.
And those two kind of factors really work against you. So we hit the nail right on the head of what I wanted to just kind of expose a little bit and get people kind of thinking along those lines to really just open up. We just did this wonderful way to open up and really to more often. This is also part of you getting in your vibrational shape, so that more often you're conscious. More often you're able to be in this space where you aren't resisting. You're total surrender. There isn't resistance. There isn't getting forcing into situation. There isn't trying to manipulate something. There's not wheeling and dealing going around. So all of that kind of stuff is boom. It's you're done with that. So now you're like in this other space where you are more in flow
Yeah.
and more accessible to yourself and to what wants to come through.
And what would be really great is to say, why would somebody want to be in their genius? Now, that might be obvious to loads of people, but there are many people in the world who walk around not believing in themselves, and in fact have even been told by their cultures that they're not supposed to think they're amazing, they're not supposed to talk about they have genius, it's all big-headed, all that stuff, and I want to say phooey to that and throw all those thoughts away.
Awesome.
Because everybody's awesome, everybody's a genius, and if we walked around going, what's your genius, how amazing are you, and here's mine, wouldn't we have a better world? We'd have a better school system, we'd have better businesses, oh my God, it would be amazing if we could just unleash the genius in every single person in the world. If that was our orientation, yeehaw! Wouldn't that
And
be
so
fabulous?
really is yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think that I've had a term in the past that I've used called a BUI, behaving under the influence, and I think that's exactly what happens for a lot of people is that they get so inundated at an earlier age with this belief system that they kind of can't do certain things, or that they won't do certain things in their life, and they just really succumb to that. So we're here to say you can bust out of it and rock a higher vibe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unleash your
And
genius
giving you
onto the
permission,
world.
allow yourself to go to that space.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's really about, and it isn't about disrespecting anybody else or cultures or what their belief system is. It's really about being true to yourself. That if you have that inkling, if this comes up for you, and it's kind of wanting to come up, let it come up. Surrender to it.
Yeah.
Let the mind go, let the belief systems go, and really step into who you really are. That's
Absolutely. And the life that you have when you're expressing your genius in a natural flow all the time, it's so exhilarating. It's so much fun. It's so creative, in many ways. And I believe you can apply your genius to any aspect of your life. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm a genius writer and that's it. That's my genius. No, I think you can bring genius to everything you do. I think you could bring genius to how you're going to cook food your way, how you're going to write, how you're going to create websites, how you're going to dance, whatever it is.
How are you going to parent?
Yeah.
A really important thing, because I think kind of like, and I love what you're saying, Soleira, because I think that what happens a lot of times is that people are thinking, when they think genius, even when they think transformational, they think there is a tendency for people to say, oh, that's for the creatives and the visionaries.
Yeah. No.
You're saying, and really, and I love that you're bringing it, down to another, or up to another level, to open up the playing field for people to realize that, you don't have to be stepping up on stage all the time. You could just be doing your day-to-day thing, bringing up your kids, going to your job, cooking for your family, all of those type of things. That's where it really counts, really.
Yeah.
That's the juice of it.
It's like genius for me is creating something brand new. That could be a thought, a way of looking at things. As you said, a way of raising your kids, a way of cooking food. Genius is innovation. It's that new that wants to come through, and that it's all sitting there, all the ideas, all the possibilities. And all we have to do is wild open, plug in, call them to us, and stream them on through. And that's it's just such an amazing way to live life. Oh my God. And another thing I wanted to say, because you were talking about that there, I talk about different levels of genius. Okay, so genius 1.0 is where we think it's the Einsteins, the Mozarts, the Da Vincis, the Michael Jacksons. Oh, they can do it, but I can't. Mm-hmm. Genius 2.0 is more like the creatives, the visionaries. Oh yeah, those people. Yeah, they're a little bit more. They've honed a skill and they've learned how to do it. Genius 3.0 is every single person has genius in them. And that's a different look at genius than 1.0, which is almost the unobtainable.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. And so the thing of it is here's the genius of that, is that, you know, maybe you weren't necessarily meant to be, you know, the next Steve Jobs or Michael Jackson or Einstein or Da Vinci. The thing is that you could have something, though, that is so particular to you that once you open it up, the person who is the next Steve Jobs, the next Michael Jackson, the next Da Vinci is going to hear that from you and spark something for them. And that's really when we come down to that term that I love to use, adding to the hum of the world, being in vibrational shape. That is it. That you're letting yourself rise up. You're letting yourself be seen, be heard, and you just it ripples. And
Absolutely.
Someone you're meant to hear it, and somebody else is meant to hear it, and who knows where that could take all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I talk about genius leadership a lot, and genius leaders aren't just, oh, I'm a genius there, look at me, see what I can do. Genius. Genius leaders inspire genius in others as well as stream their own genius through. The space they live in is a genius space, and everybody who shows up in that space is inspired to unleash their own genius and to create what I call inspired genius collectives. And that's where some really hot new stuff comes from. When you get an inspired genius collective working, woo! You know, that's the fun in life for me. Exciting.
Talk about a higher vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, well, continue to rock us out in that thought, because I like where you're going with that. So if you could talk a little bit more about that collective, because it really is, again, it's about you know, letting something come through and sharing it and inspiring others. I mean, that's really what we're meant to do. And the other thing that I took out of what you said is that there isn't any ego in this. It's you know, that's I think part of the surrender too, is that you really you know, drop all of that, and it isn't a you know how Blake Shelton does that. You know, me, it isn't about you. It really doesn't have anything to do with you. You know, other than just being.
Exactly. Well, look, let's talk about genius listening, because that's one of the skills that anyone can do to inspire genius in people around them. So I'm going to talk about 5 levels of listening quick. So there's no listening. Level 1, no listening. You're listening to yourself think as people talk, right? Level 2, listening with your ears to the words that are coming from their mouth. So you're attentive. You're paying attention to what they're saying. Level 3, it's kind of like all of you is listening to all of them. So it's like a big broadband communication stream between you, and you're listening to the deep levels of what it is they're really wanting to say. So you're kind of listening beyond the words to hear what's really coming. So you can kind of help by that listening to make it easier for them to speak. Level 4 is transformative listening, where you're kind of listening to their greater being speak, and you're kind of pulling that greater being present to really say what wants to be said through them. And then finally, genius listening. The first 4 are you in receive mode. But genius listening is you in co-create mode. And you are now creating a space for genius to come through this person. You are seeing them as an awesome, amazing genius being. You've sourced the space for genius to show up, and you are now calling genius through them. So you've done the calling, and you're pulling it out of their mouth. And you can do all that sitting there smiling sweetly with nobody even knowing you're doing it.
That
And
sounds great.
it's amazing.
And I love too is that just I think that if people and thank you for sharing those 5 levels of listening, because I think that's super important is that you know, people are able to distinguish between the different. So it's almost like what I was getting is that when you're speaking before about taking things at a cellular level, it is actually how you're taking in someone else is at a cellular level. It's not really the words. It's about the energy coming through with the message. So it's really that you're receiving it in a whole different way. And I think just even if people were open to that about how they listen to somebody else, that would also make a huge difference. But and I think too is that there are times when people struggle with what they want to say, and it's kind of like they let's say maybe somebody might be like what I like to term a budding Buddha, and they're not quite getting the awareness thing, or they're not getting the genius thing, and they're like, but they have it inside them and they're struggling to get it out. So as they encounter someone who can really listen at this level, it will help pull them forward for sure. And boom, and then they pop, and they're in that higher vibration, and they're able to really fly off from there and really float their energy more.
I recommend they get a friend who they've trained in genius listening who can listen to them when they need it and pull it out of them.
Okay, so hook us up. Where can somebody find out more? Again, just splash us with one of your best websites that would have a little sampling of how somebody can get into genius listening.
Well, I think the only place it sits, if I recall, is we have a Visionary Living online learning program, and I think it's in there. It's one of the Genius Game online learning as well is in there. There might also be on thegeniusgame.com. That's a different site. We did that about a year ago. There's probably some stuff in there specific to genius listening. So if they go on that website, there's all kinds of stuff that will support, the genius in you and how you perceive genius in others and how we run genius businesses, genius leadership, genius planet, genius nature. You'll find there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that would really support you playing in your genius.
Sure, and I think so. What it seems to me is that a lot of it comes down to relating, to aligning, and to communicating. In communicating, doing all of those things on a different level than what we may know them at this point. And I love what you're saying is that it's so powerful that it will enrich you, obviously, and then all of your relationships, from your personal relationships with friends, with family, to any type of co-creative work situation, whether it be co-workers or employees or clients or however it is that you do your thing, that it really just strengthens everything, which is again falling into the vibrational shape that we all want to get into. So what were you saying? Anything else that you'd like to add to round us out, Soleira?
Well, I think the last piece I would say is that you must unleash your genius. And the reason for that is that the generations coming behind us, you do not want them squashing themselves into tiny boxes. We want the human race to discover itself in brilliant ways. And the best way someone can make that happen is to be willing to be seen, to be heard as the genius you are, and to put your imprint of your uniqueness on the planet, to leave a legacy, to add to the hum of the world, as you say, Paula. Because the more each one of us does that, the more the young kids and the generations behind us will have an easy job of it. You know, so I highly recommend people to just dive in and play and let genius stream through you, because that's the world we want to see.
Sweet. I love that. Soleira Green of the geniuscompany.co and the Visionary Network. Thank you so, so much for your words. They're just, that's it. We want you to be in flow. We want you to be in vibrational shape, unleashing your genius, experiencing the real art of transformation, and rocking that higher vibe. I'm Paula D'Andrea for Rock Your Life TV. Remember to head over pauladandrea.com/RYLTV and get on this list, because things are happening here, and you also get a free gift. Thanks so much for watching.